By the time Vic reached the office, the politics had already matured overnight. Rumors don't sleep, ambition doesn't rest, and threatened power reacts fast. Something was moving beneath the surface, quiet, coordinated, and uncomfortably intelligent. 3 people averted their eyes as he passed. 2 whispered after he crossed the hallway. And 1 didn't bother lowering her voice at all.
Just watch. This will go upstairs. It always does.
A second voice responded, sharper. Too familiar.
He bypassed the chain of command. Of course they're angry.
Vic didn't flinch, but inside, something tightened. And then came the email from the COO, a woman known not for loudness, but for precision. If she reached out, it usually meant 3 meetings had already happened without you present. Subject line: structural concerns raised. Urgent.
So they've escalated it.
He opened the message. It wasn't a request. It wasn't an inquiry. It wasn't even a warning. It was an invitation to a board subcommittee review. A review that, strictly speaking, didn't need to exist, unless someone had pushed for it, unless someone had carried a story forward, unless someone had framed Vic's clarity as recklessness. And someone had. Because in another wing of the building, behind closed doors, a senior leader who felt quietly dethroned had begun assembling a narrative, a whisper campaign of 3 points. Vic acted without consensus. The team is emotionally unstable, and the structure threatens continuity. Clean, simple, weaponized. The review panel would meet in 2 days. But the real battle had already begun. And standing at the center of it, caught between political maneuvering above and wounded emotions below, Vic felt the same tremble Arjuna once felt on a very different battlefield. Not fear of action, but fear of the consequences that action awakens. Welcome to Beyond the Battlefield. I am Jessica, and this is episode 47.
And this exact moment is where Krishna begins revealing the secret of verse 21. Because sometimes a leader acts from clarity, but the world responds with chaos. And the question becomes, can you still remain untouched by the noise you did not create?
As the board review loomed over Vic like a slow-moving shadow, Krishna began to reveal to Arjuna the next layer of freedom in action. A layer that explains why wise leaders don't collapse even when the world closes in.
One who expects nothing, whose mind and self are disciplined, who has given up ownership. Such a person performs only the action of the body and incurs no sin, no inner disturbance.
Ankur, this sounds like a person working without any inner noise.
Exactly. Krishna is describing the state where action happens, but the doer disappears. Verse 21 gives 3 qualities of a person who remains free even in the middle of intense action. 1. Nirashi, expecting nothing, not hopeless, not careless, just not dependent. A leader becomes exhausted only when they expect praise, expect agreement, expect fairness, expect outcomes. But a person free from expectation cannot be manipulated by reactions. 2. Yachittatma, disciplined mind, a mind trained not to run behind emotion.
Disciplined in what sense?
In the sense that thoughts don't hijack the action. The mind remains steady, like a musician who plays, even if the audience walks out. Clarity stays, action stays, noise passes. 3. Tyakta sarva parigraha, not claiming ownership. This is the heart. When you stop saying this is my achievement and their fault, half your suffering disappears. Ownership is the birthplace of ego. Ego is the birthplace of fear. Letting go frees the action from burden.
Shariram kevalam karma. Only the body acts. This is Krishna's punchline. This is the line that feels mysterious. Only the body acts?
Yes, Krishna is not denying effort. He is separating action from identity. When you stop inserting I into the action, I did this, I caused that, I must control everything. Action becomes light. Effort continues, but the psychological load disappears.
As Vic read the COO's email, a sharp truth hit him. He wasn't afraid of the review. He wasn't afraid of the complaint. He wasn't even afraid of the politics. What frightened him was the possibility that he had caused all this. That somewhere, the I had slipped into the decision. That he had become the doer, not the instrument.
This is your structure, your push, your disruption.
But another voice rose beneath it, calmer, older, deeply familiar.
You acted from clarity. The reactions are not yours to carry.
And in that single moment, something softened in him. He didn't withdraw the decision. He didn't rewrite the slides. He didn't start defending himself. He just let go. Not of responsibility, but of ownership. And that shifted everything. Because now, the action remained, but the doer loosened. Exactly as Krishna described.
So, Ankur, if Vic lets go of ownership, the politics loses power?
Yes, because politics feeds on reactions. If you stand without psychological expectation, without claiming or defending identity, their control collapses.
Verse 21 gives the first liberation. Act intensely, but don't carry the action inside you. Action outside, silence inside. But Krishna is not done. Next, he reveals how a person stays steady when results turn unpredictable, people turn emotional, and the world refuses to cooperate. This is the wisdom of verse 22. Krishna now moves one step deeper into the teaching that stabilizes a leader when outcomes begin to shake. Verse 21 freed the leader from ownership. Verse 22 frees the leader from dependency.
One who is content with whatever comes, who has risen above dualities, who is free from jealousy, and who stays steady in success or failure. Such a person, even while acting, does not become bound.
So Krishna is teaching how not to be emotionally hijacked by results?
Yes, verse 22 is the antidote to anxiety, comparison, instability, and emotional turbulence. 1. Yadrichalabh santushto. Content with what arrives naturally. This does not mean laziness. It means you don't beg the future for happiness. When you stop negotiating with life, I'll be okay only if this happens, contentment becomes natural. The wise still plan, still work, still aim high, but their happiness is not held hostage by outcomes. 2. Dvandvatita, beyond dualities. Pleasure, pain, praise, blame, gain, loss, approval, disapproval.
Dualities are the ropes that pull us.
Yes, a leader becomes unstable only when dualities define their emotional weather. When you stop swinging with them, your leadership becomes unshakable. 3. Vimatsara, free from envy. Not envy in a dramatic sense, but subtle comparison. Comparison is the ego's thermometer, and it always reads not enough. A mind free from comparison becomes naturally peaceful. 4. Samah siddha va siddho, equal in success and failure. This is the essence.
How can anyone be equal in success and failure?
Because their identity doesn't rise with success and doesn't collapse with failure. They act, they give their best, but they don't let outcomes define their worth.
That afternoon, Vic stepped into the micro kitchen to grab a glass of water. 2 managers stood there, and their conversation stopped the moment he entered. A silent signal, a small freeze in the air, a reminder that the narrative circulating was no longer a rumor. It had become a movement. One of them nodded coldly and left. The other offered a tight half smile, the kind given when loyalty is uncertain. Vic felt it, the sting, the isolation, the quiet judgment that comes when people haven't yet heard the full story but feel safe taking sides. And inside him, something flickered.
They think you're reckless. They think you acted alone. Let them think. You cannot control minds. You can only steady your own.
He stood at the counter, fingers lightly gripping the cold steel surface. His breath slowed. His shoulders softened. A strange realization washed over him. He didn't crave their approval, and he didn't fear their withdrawal. It surprised him, because yesterday he would have. But today, something from Krishna's verses was beginning to settle inside him. Content with whatever comes. Beyond dualities. Equal in praise or blame. The team hadn't changed. The politics hadn't changed. The tension hadn't changed. Vic had. And in that shift, in that tiny emotional pivot, the emotional hooks of the situation lost their grip. This was verse 22 taking root.
So, Ankur, Krishna is teaching Arjuna how to act fiercely without being emotionally kidnapped by the world's reactions?
Yes, because a leader attached to praise will crumble under criticism. A leader attached to success will panic at failure, but a leader anchored in inner steadiness can walk through storms without losing themselves.
Verse 22 strengthens the emotional foundation of action. Act with full effort, but do not hand your peace to outcomes. And now, Krishna goes even deeper, into the verse where action itself is consumed by awareness. A fire that burns karmic residue before it can even form. This is the revelation of verse 23. If verse 21 frees the leader from ownership, and verse 22 frees them from emotional dependence, verse 23 frees them from the burden of their past actions. It reveals why some people act intensely, yet carry no heaviness inside them.
For one who is free from attachment, who is liberated, whose mind is established in knowledge, and who performs action as a sacred offering, all their actions dissolve completely.
Actions dissolve, meaning what? That nothing sticks?
Yes, it means the action leaves no scar, no residue, no karmic shadow. This verse reveals why enlightened people act intensely but do not get psychologically tired. 1. Gata Sangasya, free from attachment. No emotional stickiness, no clinging, no this must benefit me, no craving for recognition. Attachment is what gives karma its glue. Let go of attachment and the glue disappears. 2. Muktasya, already inwardly free. This freedom is not external. It's not a promotion, not a vacation, not fewer responsibilities. It is internal space.
So even before the action begins, the person is free inside.
Yes, they don't begin action from a place of lack. 3. Jnanavasthit chetasa, mind rooted in awareness. Awareness acts like fire. When you act with full awareness, your ego cannot sneak in. Ego wants credit. Awareness wants clarity. Where awareness is strong, ego has no room to bind the action. 4. Yajna ya charatah karm, action performed as a sacred offering. This is the heart of the verse.
Yagna, meaning ritual?
No, yajna means I offer this action into something higher than myself. A higher purpose, a higher truth, a higher consciousness. Only ego creates karma. When action is an offering, there is no ego left to claim it.
At 3:40 p.m., Vic entered a small conference room to prepare for the upcoming review. He expected a quiet space, but he wasn't alone. Sitting at the table was Rajiv, a senior leader known for his political alliances, and known even more for being subtly dangerous. Rajiv looked up with a calm, unreadable smile.
Ah, Vic. Heard you're restructuring half the org. Quite the ambition.
There was no warmth in the voice, only gentle accusation hidden under politeness. Vic sat down opposite him. He didn't defend. He didn't explain. He didn't justify. Something new was awake inside him. He remembered verse 23. Act as an offering. Let awareness burn the residue. Don't let ego claim the action. And suddenly, Rajiv's words had no hooks.
He's provoking you. Defend yourself.
But the deeper voice rose again.
Let it pass. This is not your fire to enter.
So Vic remained still, rooted, alert, unaffected. Rajiv waited for a reaction. He got none. Something in the room shifted. Power settled differently. Because when ego offers bait and the other person does not bite, the entire strategy collapses. And this exact moment, was Krishna's verse playing out. When awareness holds the action, the world cannot bind you.
So Ankur, when Vic stopped reacting, he stopped creating new karma?
Yes, because reaction comes from ego, but response comes from awareness.
Verse 23 teaches Arjuna and Vic that when action becomes an offering, awareness burns every trace of residue. But Krishna is about to reveal something even more extraordinary. A state where the action, the doer, the offering, the receiver, and the fire of transformation all become one. A state where leadership itself becomes sacred. This is the profound teaching of verse 24. Verse 24 is not a teaching. It's a shift in perception. Krishna is no longer describing what to do. He is showing how reality looks when the ego dissolves.
The offering is Brahman. The object offered is Brahman. It is offered by Brahman into the fire of Brahman. One who sees this, who is absorbed in this vision of action, reaches only Brahman.
Ankur, this verse feels like the world is melting into oneness.
Yes, Krishna is showing the highest state of action where nothing is separate anymore. 1. The act of offering is Brahman. This means when the intention behind action is pure, the action becomes sacred. It's not about ritual. It's about why you act. A leader gives feedback not to assert dominance, not to look smart, not to protect position, but simply to help someone grow. Even a hard conversation becomes sacred when the intention is clean. Purity of intention is where sacredness begins. 2. The offering itself is Brahman. Whatever you are doing, sending emails, solving conflicts, firing someone, creating strategy, is all part of the same sacred reality. Nothing is ordinary. A parent packing their child's lunch, a coder debugging for the 100th time, a nurse changing a bandage, all mundane tasks, yet all become sacred when seen without ego. When the ego steps aside, even simple tasks glow with significance. 3. The fire that receives the offering is Brahman. The results, the reactions, the consequences are also part of the same divine system. You are not the manager of the universe. You work sincerely on a proposal. You present it well. But the client chooses a competitor. The ego says, I failed. I deserved better. This is unfair. Awareness says, I offered my best. The outcome belongs to a larger intelligence. This acceptance creates inner freedom. When outcomes are seen as Brahman, you stop fighting with reality. 4. The person absorbed in this action reaches Brahman. This is the transformation. When the doer dissolves, the action flows naturally without pride, without fear, without residue. During a crisis, the best leaders make decisions not for personal credit, not to protect image, not to avoid blame, but because the moment demands it. Later, whether people praise or criticize, it doesn't define them. Their identity rests not in the action, but in awareness itself. When the ego no longer claims ownership, the person returns to their true nature.
After his quiet encounter with Rajiv, Vic walked toward the meditation room, a small, rarely used glass cube at the far end of the corridor. He wasn't escaping. He wasn't strategizing. He wasn't rehearsing answers for the board review. He just needed to breathe. He sat down, closed his eyes, rested his palms on his knees. The storm continued outside. Politics tightening, stories spreading, meetings forming. But inside him, a question rose. If I don't control anything, who is really acting? And then something unexpected happened. Not a realization, not enlightenment, not clarity, but a soft dissolving. He saw. The structure wasn't his. The decision wasn't his. The consequences weren't his. The reactions weren't his. He was simply the place where the action had passed through. Like wind through a window.
But people are angry. They think you caused this. What if causing and being the cause are not the same.
And suddenly, the burden lifted. Not because the situation changed, but because the sense of doership loosened. Exactly as Krishna said, the offering is Brahman, the action is Brahman, the fire that receives it is Brahman. If everything is Brahman, then what is there to defend? What is there to fear? What is there to carry? Vic opened his eyes, not relieved, not victorious, but unburdened. And sometimes that is the beginning of real leadership.
So, Ankur, when a leader reaches this state, even the hardest actions don't leave in us scars?
Yes, because the ego is no longer the one acting. Action flows through them, not from them.
And that's why Krishna says such a person reaches only Brahman?
Exactly. When you act without ego, you return to your true nature.
Today, we walked with Krishna from action to awareness, and finally, to that sacred place where the doer disappears altogether. Verses 21 to 24 aren't theories, they're invitations. Invitations to act, to let go, to release ownership, and to offer our decisions into something larger than our own ego. And while Arjuna stood on a battlefield of warriors, Vic stood inside a battlefield of politics, perception, and consequence. Different worlds, same questions. What happens when your action is right, but the world resists it? What happens when clarity demands courage, but the environment weaponizes fear? This is where Krishna takes us next.
In the next episode, we enter verses 25 to 30, where Krishna reveals the many paths of yajna. Different people, different offerings, different ways of purifying the mind, all leading toward the same freedom. These verses aren't just philosophy, they are a map for every modern leader who feels torn between action, expectation, and the search for inner balance.
And Vic, he's about to discover that the board review, the political maneuvering, and the shifting alliances are not just external events. They are his inner yajna, a fire in which something heavy must melt before something new can be born. So join us next time as the battlefield widens and the path deepens. Until then, keep reflecting, keep refining, and keep remembering. Your action is not just work, it is an offering. If today's journey resonated with you, share this episode with someone walking through their own leadership storm. Write to us anytime at beyondthebattlefield@outlook.in. And don't forget to explore the Beyond the Battlefield GPT Companion, your interactive guide to every verse we explore here. The link is waiting in the description.
Stay steady, stay awake, and walk with courage.